Alright, so a very good day, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, another episode. Welcome to Run Danny Boy. I am your host, Danny Boy, and so today we are going to talk about dogs. Yeah, what? Running? Dogs? Yes, we are. So we are going to talk about what kind of considerations you need to take into consideration. Allow myself to introduce myself. I'm going to go and list off a couple of things, considerations you can take into account if you ever want to go running with your dog, and that also includes some races. Yes, you can actually run with your dog in some races. So let's go and introduce our host of the episode, our special guest, I should say. Get over here. All right. Come on. Come on. Bum, ba-da-dum, bum, bum. Bum, bum. Reintroducing Archie. Yes, remember him from episode 1. He is Stinky Breath, but I think he is appropriate for today's episode. You can be on the side. I am center stage. Okay, let's get this right. Anyways, so let's go and talk about some considerations that you need to take into account when you are trying to run with your dog. The first one I want to start off with is distractibility. How easily can your dog get distracted? Whether it's people, whether it's other dogs, whether it's traffic, bicycles, skateboards, scooters, anything like that. You know, if your dog is the type to just go and just take a 90-degree turn and just change direction, obviously that's a safety concern. So you want to be aware of how focused your dog is. If you're not entirely sure, then what I would suggest is, you know, doing small trials, testing your dog. Most people are aware of what their dog tends to be really focused on. So the important thing, and you'll notice that by, you know, from walking your dog. So the important thing is to be cognizant of those factors if you are taking your dog out for a run. Second thing is, how good is your dog at following directions? The most important direction when running with your dog is stop. Okay, if your dog can't follow directions, especially the word stop, then you might put yourself in some dangerous positions with the animal. Especially when it comes to crossing the street, you want to have that command handy, and they need, hey, what you doing? You're blocking me. Come on over here. There you go. Yeah, don't look at that. All right. Okay, you know what? Maybe you're done. All right, shoo. Thank you. Good boy. The stop command is the most important one, obviously because of the hazards that can come across your path when you're running. So you need to be able to make sure your dog understands stop. Okay, so whether you try to ingrain it at home or when you're walking, you can practice that and just make sure the dog understands that when you say stop, they have to stop moving. Just as important as the command stop is also how much time you give your dog to react to stop. Okay, if you see something and you only say stop at the last moment, the dog going really fast, they have a lot of momentum, so even if they're trying to stop, they might not be able to stop in time. So you need to remember that if you are running, you need to say the stop command earlier. Or what I like to do is I actually have a pre-signal. I go and I say the word "and" before I say the word "stop." And depending on how fast we're going, because obviously the faster you go, the less reaction time you have, the faster you're going, or the faster I'm going, the longer "and" I would say. So if it was a stop that we weren't going too fast, I might say "and stop." But if we're going quite fast and I want to really get the dog to slow down ahead of time, I might drag it out and say "and stop." So by having that pre-signal, if you practice that with your dog, they're going to kind of be aware, okay, here's that "and" word, something's going to come next. There's another set of instructions. And if it's usually stop, then you'll notice your dog will begin to slow down even before you said the word stop. Another command that is really useful when it comes to, you know, running with your dog is the word walk or walking. It's a great command because there are certain times where there are more hazards on the road, whether there's construction or simply crossing the street. You don't want to just go barreling through. You know, there's cars that are turning and whatnot. So by having the word walk or the command walking, you'll have your dog slow down and just take a little bit more time to get to the other side. Yes, I know, you have to walk. I know that you want to run with your dog and, you know, you like to run and you're Mr. Fitness or Miss Fitness. However, you will have to stop sometimes or walk sometimes with your dog. Okay, so just be aware of that. But, in terms of safety, that has to come first. Another thing that's important besides verbal commands is leash control. Okay, because obviously your dog can change direction or speed at any time. And if you don't have good leash control, the dog can get away from you. So it's important that you have a tight grip when it comes to leash control. This is especially important when it comes to the larger breeds. The most important thing to keep in mind with leash control is consistency. Okay, if you always do the same turns, if you pull the leash the same way for turns, if you pull the same way when you want the dog to stop, if you kind of relax a little more if you want the dog to go, if you do it the same way every time, your dog, depends on how smart your dog is, they start to pick up on that usually. So you might even notice before you say the verbal command to stop, you might notice that your dog is starting to slow down because of how you manipulated the leash. So once again, consistency is the most important thing when it comes to leash control. Now, leash control and verbal commands are also only as good as your dog's focus. Now, obviously when a dog comes out for a run, they're excited, they want to run around, even for walks, they can have a lot of pent-up energy. So the important thing when it comes to running with your dog is I strongly suggest taking your dog out for a walk before you take them for a run. If they're too excited, they're not going to listen to your commands. So by getting the walk out of the way, you bring that level of energy and excitement down a bit so they're a little more pliable when it comes to these commands. Also, you can get some of the bathroom breaks out of the way. So that way, during your run, you're not stopping to pick up a poo-poo. I would super strongly suggest this when it comes to races. Because obviously, if your dog is running in a race, there are going to be other dogs that are there. Probably a lot of them. So all these extra dogs barking, yipping, running around, socializing, it's going to create a whole nother level of either excitement or anxiety for your dog. And by at least walking your dog separately beforehand, you can go and calm the nerves a little bit before being introduced into that environment. Okay, and here's some other quick considerations I'm just going to touch on and we're going to keep going. Okay, so the first thing is don't forget dogs get thirsty too. Okay, especially in the summer heat, but just throughout regular runs, just make sure that you bring water or you are aware of locations throughout your run that you can go and get some water for your pooch. Another thing is that the physical... That's what I think. Do it again. Another thing is that physical activity helps the digestive system kind of move along. So compared to a walk, especially because the dog is now running and could be for a longer period of time, you're going to notice that your dog is going to go to the bathroom more often. Okay, I'm talking specifically about numero dos. Okay, so make sure you have extra bags for said poops. And word to the wise, at least with my personal experience, after every single poop, the consistency gets worse. So it gets a little gross at the end. So just kind of mentally prepare yourself for that because no bueno. Another thing to check out, especially in those summer months, is to check the temperature of the floor or pavement before you go and take your dog out for the run. Obviously we run with shoes, so we don't really notice how hot the ground can be. So an important thing to do before you go and take your dog out for a run or even walks is just to go and place your hand, or if you're, just barefoot, but probably your hand, just put your hand on the ground. And if you cannot keep it down on the pavement for 10 seconds because it's too hot, then it's too hot for your dog. So just make sure you test it before putting them through this run because obviously they can't verbalize to you that the pavement's too hot. Another thing to keep in mind is if you go for a run, let's say in the morning, and you check and everything is good, obviously throughout the day the sun is going to keep hitting the pavement and it'll slowly start increasing temperature over time. So when it comes to these runs, make sure that not only do you check in the beginning, but you check periodically just to make sure that your dog is doing a-okay. Okay, another factor to take into mind is that not all dogs can run distance fast. We have different breeds and also different ages. Even a husky who can run in the tundra for miles and miles, being a sled dog, if they're 20 years in human years, they're going to take their time if they're going to run at all. So make sure that you run at their speed and not your speed.
Oh, but Danny boy, what about my PR? I'm supposed to be the fastest ever.
Well, the fact of the matter is that you are running with your dog for a bonding experience. The reason why you're running with your dog is so you can share this time and this experience with them. So really the priority should be having a good time with your dog, making sure it's safe, making sure that they're having a good time, and not your personal record. So, like I said, some races, some 5Ks allow dogs to participate. How cool is that? All you gotta do is just check online, obviously put like 5K dog 5K, just put that in the search engine, and you know, you should be able to find some answers that populate that are in your area. Now, I've only done one, so I can't speak for all of the 5Ks or all of the dog races or all that stuff, but at least the one that I did, and I'm going to assume that all of them do, is they check for your dog's rabies tag, make sure that it's up to date, and they sometimes also ask for the paperwork to prove that your dog had the shot that year. So make sure you have the tag, make sure you have the paperwork, or at the very least, make sure you check what the requirements are for that particular race before you pay up that registration fee. So not all dogs are made for races, not because of speed, but in terms of being surrounded by other dogs. You know, other dogs can get anxious or fearful. So if your dog is one of those type of dogs, you know, in that environment, then maybe races aren't for the two of you. If your dog is aggressive around other dogs, then definitely don't do races. Okay? Obviously, if your dog is okay, you know, running, but obviously you would know that, then do that. But in terms of races, obviously you don't want to cause a situation because your dog is a hater. I'm sorry. Yep, I called your dog a hater. Me. Okay, so lastly, I'm going to go and hit you with this disclaimer just to go and cover my hiney. So I'm going to go and let the announcer take over. But here we go. Even if they meet all of this criteria, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are a good fit for running. You know your dog best, so only you can make that determination. This is not an end-all be-all list, and there may be other factors you need to take into account. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, well, that is it for this video. So, as always, I always ask, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel, tick that notification bell icon. Ding! Okay, that would help out the channel tremendously. Don't forget to check out rundandyboy.com, has all of my material, all of the videos, articles, etc., shoe reviews. Check it out, we got that right there. Okay, and also follow me on Twitter at rundandyboy1. And if you like the music, don't forget that is from my friend Jinenji. Yes, so make sure you click the link in the description if you want to listen to some more music from Jinenji. But ladies and gentlemen, that is it. So, I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, enjoy your run.